YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, back in Total War Warhammer 2, and I've had a few people say that I haven't showed the Vampire Coast winning enough. What is it? Do you hate these guys? Are you trying to teach people just how to beat them because you want them to lose all the time? Well, no, not necessarily. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to see how people match up against them, and so I'm bringing you a coast where we're going to be, or a video where we're going to be viewing the Vampire Coast. The question is, will they win? Because they have not brought their typical skirmishy selves. Let's watch Count Noctulis and his all-rush army take on the Dark Elves. Alright, so here we are, ready to get the battle started. Let me introduce you to the two armies that are going to be squaring off. As I mentioned, we're going to have Count Noctulis leading the Vampire Coast, and his forces are going to be made up of 3 Depth Guard without the polearms, just the standard dual-axe variant that comes with extremely high weapon damage, which are very good against low armor infantry. There's going to be 1 unit of Sirens. Should be a great unit for causing terror, and also they're ethereal, so if the enemy doesn't have magical damage, they will suffer greatly versus this unit. There is 1 unit of zombie polearm on either flank, and then just a whole crapload of zombie deckhand mob all through the center. There is 1 unit of fellbats, which is engaging with some harpies out here and doesn't really want to, but the Dark Elf player has indeed brought 4 harpy units, 2 on each flank. The main line is going to be composed of bleak swords and dread spears. The spears towards the flank and the swords in the middle. And then their back line, though, is going to be an incredible, huge number of dark shards with shields. There's going to be 4 of them, expecting to do a lot of skirmishing. The Fellbats got away and managed to get in here and disrupt some of the dark shards. There is the Hellebrunai on the back, and there is a Sorceress of Fire and Lokir Fellheart leading. So they're going to have a tanky lord, lots of somewhat throwaway infantry, and they're hoping to do their damage with their 4 crossbows. Can they hold off the huge numbers that they're going to be rushed with? If you look at the troop count here, both armies rather large, actually. And in fact, the Dark Elves ended up bringing an even larger army than the Vampire Coast because they brought so many low-tier units themselves. But low-tier units are a poor match against Depth Guard, a very poor match. And Count Noctulis is going to be able to summon zombies or deckhand mob, and he's going to be able to heal key units. Right off the bat here, let's see what's up. It's going to be a burning head or flaming head here. Flaming skull, flaming head, burning head. I'm sure I'm getting the wrong way or the other. These Depth Guard are going to absolutely own all this infantry. But those ones in the middle took a lot of damage. However, these ones on the flanks, along with the Sirens, are going to get into battle cleanly away from the Dark Shards. And the Dark Shards are going to be immediately challenged by summoned units. There's some zombies summoned right here behind them. And their bleak swords in the middle have already collapsed to the combined zombie Noctulis. And you can see that already their dark shards are being chased down. Some of them are already fleeing, so the front line fell apart quickly. The Sorceress of Fire tries to unload a flame storm here, and some really nice dodging actually by the Vampire Coast player. Dodging around nicely, staying away from that flame storm. Kind of waiting for it to run its course. The Sirens and these Depth Guard anxious to get back into combat. They've already wrecked some cheap units on the flanks. The zombie deckhand mob have no problem holding these cheap infantry for a long period of time. And despite the large number of harpies, they won't end up doing a whole bunch. A couple of units that I didn't introduce initially is going to be these Night Terrors, Mournghouls, along with the Mournghoul Haunter, which came in from the flank. So you had a rush where the Sirens came from one flank and the Mournghouls came from the other. Very nice 1-2 punch there to put pressure immediately on a Dark Elf flank. And sure enough, the Dark Elves did cause extensive damage in the middle. But the fact that these polearms are still alive, look at that, 118 kills, they are just hacking their way through everything they touch. 166 kills and rapidly climbing over here. The Depth Guard are going to be significantly effective because the Dark Elves did not bring anything to counter it. They expected an all-zombie army. You could tell that they expected to sit back and do a little shooting from range. They had the shielded Dark Shards, a ton of cheap troops because all they expected was zombies. Yeah, not sure I like the pick of the Dark Elves because it leaves them quite vulnerable to certain units from the Vampire Coast, namely the Depth Guard, but almost more importantly the Morgul Haunters, or the Morguls. There's not a lot of spears. There was a few spears in the army of the Dark Elves, but I mean, bleak swords just don't hold up to much. And zombies aren't a tough foe, but they do cause fear. And all it takes is a decent number of them to start to outweigh. I mean, yeah, bleak swords will get some kills. Look at that, those had 46. There's 57 kills on those dread spears. I mean, these units aren't incapable of getting kills against zombies, but I just don't know that they're going to trade well because it takes them a while to kill them, and then you have the whole fear thing that comes into play. And then all the harpies were obviously meant for artillery to try and tie that down, while the Dark Shards hopefully cleaned up key targets. And you can see that the Vampire Coast is just absolutely drowning the Dark Elves with their key units here, and the pun is intended at this point. Pun intended. So yeah, the Fire Sorceress, or sorry, yeah, the Sorceress of Lord Fire trying to hold on out here, and the Vampire Coast Rush is just going to be too effective for the pick here. Picks mean everything in this game. Picks are huge. You have to think about the different potential combinations of enemy forces that you're going to come up against and how you might need to counter it. Like this Fire Sorceress here used up that Flame Storm early in this battle. Right now it would cause intense damage if she hadn't used up all of her winds of magic. This area right here do massive damage to it, but it's, you know, the magic was used too early, wasn't quite the right position for it. He didn't bring an appropriate counter. And if you think about the play that the Dark Elves were making here to begin with, which was, oh, I'm going to try and bring massed range against the Vampire Coast. Well, if the Vampire Coast had loaded up on guns and cannons, then this army would have been just as dead. The Dark Shards just wouldn't have traded well from range because they would have been getting hit by cannons and guns and all kinds of stuff. So you got to be very careful of your picks. I think the Dark Elves are capable of going after the Vampire Coast with some success, but just got to make sure you prepare for different scenarios. It's kind of like if you take the Greenskins against the Vampire Coast, for instance, you should expect Sirens as a counter pick. And just as a safety, you pretty much always need to be bringing Big Wah with the Fist of Gork, because it gives you those magic attacks that you would need to take down an ethereal unit, because your opponent can beat you with a single pick in that case. If you bring those ethereal units against the Greenskins, you will probably lose as the Greenskins if you don't bring a magical attack to counter it, because you can end up in situations where the matchup just kills you. Like in this case, the matchup just killed the Dark Elves because they didn't have the right units. Look at this, 238 kills on this Depth Guard, 169 here. The Sirens were almost untouched. The Night Terrors were going strong. Noctulis and the Morgul Haunter almost untouched. It's really just the chaff of the Vampire Coast that was taking a beating. But even that, look at it. 46 kills, 40, 28, 44 over here. That's not bad for chaff units. That is not bad at all, considering that, you know, they're chaff units to begin with. So, you know, again, showing this one here just to give you all a little feel. The Vampire Coast don't have to sit back and play skirmishy. They can rush. You can take that risk. You won't win it every time, but it does give you the ability to go put the enemy on their heels because they'll likely be expecting defensive play. I think that one of the things you'd have to look out for with this army might be some cavalry. If you got hit by big cavalry or monsters, I mean, you don't have a lot of anti-large in this army. You know, you don't have any anti-large really, except for these two zombie deckhand with pole arms, and that's going to be somewhat limited in speed. So I think if you wound up against a lot of monsters or a really nice range kite, because of the speed of these armies, you'd be in trouble. You only have the one Fellbat to tie down units. But I like it. Sometimes you just play risky. That's what Luke the Duke did here. It worked out good. Angry Northerner, just, you know, again, interesting pick on his part to try and bring all that armor-piercing ranged. But, you know, and this was his plan. I'm going to go tie down everything with the Harpies, bring my range into play, kill the key Vampire Coast units, and then go in for the finish. It makes sense, but I see it having a hard time being pulled off depending on several picks that the Vampire Coast could go for. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe and like this video, because there will be more content, and I can't wait to see you there soon.